Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Molotov. This ship is available in the Battle Pass this update. It's part of the second progression line, and you can buy into that for 2,500 doubloons. So we're going to go over it here today. This is a rather old ship in World of Warships, been in the game for a very, very long time. But that doesn't mean it's not interesting. This ship brings those 180mm guns we see at higher tier on some of these Russian cruisers down to tier 6. Very powerful. However, this is the experience. Yeah, you get dev struck a lot in this ship, even more so than other mid-tier cruisers, which are well known for not being very easy to play. No healing here, no armor here. It's very, very hard. Molotov in particular has one of the largest citadels in the entire game. On top of that, it has the worst turning circle radius. So if you're caught broadside, you are stuck broadside. But you have really good guns. So this ship being in the Battle Pass means you might be interested in buying into it to actually get it for a reasonable price for a tier 6 premium here, 2,500 doubloons. AP punching right through into the citadel of that Graf Spee. The shell velocity here is also amazing. Best in class. So you're the best or the worst at tier 6 for cruisers in a lot of different regards. These guns, though, are really, really nice to use. The AP has really good pen, even out to longer ranges. So whenever you find cruisers broadside, you're going to do very well. Battleships upper belt in particular, you're also going to get a lot of full pens. The alpha damage is quite respectable too, 4,400 alpha. Pretty high for at tier 6. Your HE, though, also pretty solid, but not the highest alpha, 2,500 alpha. Still going to do really good damage into DDs. In particular, thanks to that shell velocity. It makes it really easy to lead these guns at longer ranges. I'm going to miss some in these games, don't you worry, but it's still very, very nice. 30mm of pen here on this HE, which is more than enough for your tier. This isn't like high tier where we have a lot of battleships with 32mm of armor. The battleships here will often, at tier 7, they have 26, I believe, somewhere in there. And tier 5, they go even lower than that. So easily able to full pen most areas of battleships, or at least the extremities. Lower tier, we can see some of that dreadnought style armor, I guess we could say, where the upper belt, the deck armor, is way more armored than we even see at high tier, tier 10. So you'd have to contest with that a little bit. This ship is all about its guns, but survivability is going to be a challenge. In that first clip, we got plane spotted, and then the sub pigs us with homing torps. We have to try and dodge those. All the while, a battleship is waiting for the juicy crossfire the instant we go broadside. That's what happens when carrier spotting is the way it is and subs are what they are. I'm not going to rant about that too hard, but it is something you have to worry about at tier 6 because this is where you're going to fight a lot of carriers and submarines. This is their most popular tier, at least for subs, I believe. Carriers, it might be similarly popular all the way through, but it is quite difficult, and I did want to mention that if you're interested in getting this ship, you need good maneuverability and you need good concealment to counteract that. You need to be able to clump up with your team. And this ship does okay in the concealment regard. Not amazing, but it does okay. This ship is not the worst, but 9th worst, I guess we would say, of the tier 6 cruisers. And again, we've already mentioned that turning radius being a massive problem. So you have to pick your positions wisely. But that said, I do think this is a very interesting ship to get for tier 6 premium, especially thanks to this event pass here, this battle pass, giving you a decent price on it. Looking a little at the armory, actually, it's available still for 4,850 doubloons. So you're getting it almost half off, but it does require you to grind through the battle pass this update. So if you're not going to play, then, maybe don't buy into it. But if you're just playing, this is a half off Molotov, I suppose we could say. Honghae here going in, and this is where we love that AP. Even into a slightly angled ship like this, we got a lot of pen, so we can even citadel him there. Although, pen and shell velocity, what does that result in at high tier for your battleships? That is a bit of an issue for this ship as well. 4 overpens, unfortunate. Yeah, it's a bit of an issue with that good shell velocity and good pen. Fortunately, our teammate does get through that graph speed and finishes him off. Carrier in this one again, so making it challenging to use island cover, challenging to worry about those crossfires. You'll notice I'm constantly trying to keep the Queen Elizabeth and that island specifically in between us, so I can 1v1 these cruisers or just limit the number of people shooting at me. Limit the number of people that can overmatch me in particular. That Queen Elizabeth would be very, very scary for us to deal with. Graph speed, though, is also rather tricky. I don't know if he overmatches me, actually, but he might. He's certainly going to get some nice salvos into us. We got to be a little bit careful. Swapping over to the HE now, perhaps relied a little too much on the armor piercing. I think it's more of a, when the opportunity strikes, you should go for it. Here we do eat a Citadel, I believe, from that graph speed. And I think that might have been overmatching through our bow. So you have to be a little bit careful of those battle cruiser style shells. And that's pretty common for a cruiser at this tier. They're very hard to play, man. There's a good reason why I typically don't enjoy playing cruisers at this tier. And it's really just down to their lack of healing. I don't mind so much the lack of armor, or even just getting punished when you go broadside. But it's the lack of healing. Taking a lot of chip damage, taking overmatch damage, it's annoying. But if you have heals, you can at least come back into a lot of these games or recover a little bit. And mid-tier cruisers have it very, very tough these days, and Molotov certainly does have to worry about that. Consumables-wise, it's not that impressive. It's fine. I mean, a 4-kilometer hydro is certainly nice to have. You could swap that for a defensive fire if you wanted to. And crucially, we do also get access to a spotter plane, which means in those up tiers, you at least have a chance of farming from behind certain islands. And I would recommend you play rather passive, at least at the start of those up tiers into tier 8. There's a lot of battleships or even battle cruisers at those higher tiers that will just one-shot you or just two-shot you. It's really quite easy to die in this ship. And you will need to learn how to position around islands, play passively, learn which islands allow you to lob over them and farm, because with good shell velocity, it's harder to lob over certain islands you may be used to if you've played, say, light cruisers or the American heavy cruisers with their slow shell velocity. Risky here to reverse out on this Queen Elizabeth, yet I'm going to, because he seems to be focused on finishing off our New Mexico. Nice 5k salvo in. That AP still really hurts. It's a really, really nice on these guns, but it's a glass cannon. It is the original glass cannon, I guess we could say. Molotov was introduced a very, very long time ago, and because of that, it can struggle these days, but it doesn't mean these guns are a bad thing. So maybe comment down below what you think of Molotov if you already have this ship. That way people can get an idea of what others think in the comments if they're on the fence about buying into this battle pass. But for 2,500 doubloons, if you've ground your way through the battle pass, I think it's a reasonable pickup. It's definitely an interesting ship to play at tier 6. There's not a lot that plays similarly. Maybe there are nowadays. I guess you could look at it as just a way worse Pensacola, now that I'm thinking about this. That's not a very favorable comparison, is it? Pensacola has battleship armor at this tier, 203s, improved pen angles. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, if you want a premium version that's way harder to play, this is still an interesting option. But yeah, Battleship Pensacola, if you haven't seen some of those videos, definitely check them out. That ship is crazy at tier 6 now. Perhaps not fair to compare Molotov to a ship that's been buffed and is now incredibly strong, maybe a little too strong perhaps, at tier 6, but still, it is a comparison we have to make. Graph speed also gets healing, right? So that ship can be overmatched, it can be burnt down, but it gets healing at this tier, so that makes it a little bit more comfortable to play. But we can get up to some decent damage here, over 60k here in this one already. But I gotta say, it was hard to play this ship. I lost a lot of HP often that I just was not even thinking about. Perhaps I was playing poorly on the day that I was running this ship, but I found it very challenging to play, this mid-tier cruiser here, the Molotov. And I don't think that's necessarily this ship's fault. I think that's just the nature of playing a mid-tier cruiser with very, very little armor and no healing these days. But we do manage to win this game with 72,000 damage. Being a premium ship, you can swap commanders over to it. You can earn a little more credits, although at tier 6, the credit income still isn't quite as good as when you get up to higher tier, tier 8, tier 9. Notice we only received 289,000 credits here for this one, not counting our repair costs or whatever. Highest base XP, not too bad, but still not the best profits from these mid-tier premiums. They're still fun to play though, a unique experience. Now, when it comes to building a ship like the Molotov or really any mid-tier cruiser, when you're doing tech tree, oftentimes you're building towards a build you would want on the higher tier ships, tier 8, 9, and 10, that sort of thing. So you're less thinking about optimizing for this particular ship, the mid-tier ship. But when it's a premium, you can swap over different commanders, have different builds. So this is what I went with here. A little bit greedy, perhaps, towards things like top grade gunner, outnumbered for better accuracy on these incredible guns. There's not a lot you can do to buff your survivability here, unfortunately. Definitely recommend taking concealment. Definitely recommend taking survivability expert. That barely gets us over 30k HP. Very low HP on this ship. And with this armor profile, you definitely need every hit point you can possibly get. Our detection is okay, but not amazing at this tier either. Here's the thing, 16 bow, 18, 25, not great, but 70 millimeter plating on this Citadel. And look at how large it is. Very above water, like very above water, and the entire length of the ship. This is a ship that was released a very long time ago, back in the day, as I might be inclined to say these around now. I miss these days, guys. I'll be honest with you. I really miss these days of World of Warships. It still sucks, like, playing this ship and exploding back in the day, but everything was kind of like this back in the day. People got punished really hard for going broadside back in the day. That is just not seen these days. This is a Citadel of a bygone era. This does not exist in the game anymore, it feels like. Maybe there's some examples recently, but as a general trend, we've seen this massively go away. Or if it's here, the ship is much narrower, leading to more overpens, for example. So be careful playing this ship. It is a bit of a relic of a bygone era, but it's still got some very powerful guns. These 180s are incredible for your tier. Not a lot really comes close as far as dispersion, shell velocity, damage, pen. They're really some of the best cruiser guns at their tier. Much better shell velocity even than things like Pensacola. The upgrades aren't all that interesting, but pretty standard stuff, I would say. That turning circle radius is really the killer here. Our rudder shift's not bad. It's just the turning circle radius that is so difficult to deal with. Even running the HP flag here, and we still don't have the best survivability. Definitely recommend running Hydro over defensive fire. Your AA is terrible here, so defensive fire is not really going to help that. You know, 50%, 300% on what is essentially zero doesn't really help much. So Hydro, definitely more valuable, although still didn't really help us against that submarine and carrier spotting. So you can get into some very challenging positions in this ship. Your depth charges are ones that are ship-based, not plane-based. So again, very challenging to fight those two preferential classes that Wargaming seems to enjoy babying and buffing. And here we are with the event pass. The regular progression line, get you some camos. Looks like they're bringing back the Russian heavy cruiser line camos for Tallinn, Riga, Petro. And Riga and Petro camos are also in this second progression line. So if you're interested, that's what it is. And for 2,500 doubloons. So kind of like half off the Molotov here. You get some other things as well. Not necessary to buy into, but if you're interested, I think this is an all right ship. It certainly is interesting for its tier, but it's very, 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 very hard to play. And you should probably know that going into this. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.